Hey, Shashanka.
Hello. Hey, Ben.
I got excited and maybe joined early.
Awesome. You might see something you like. We have some prototypes of tags.
Awesome. Yeah, I that's very cool. I just wrote a thing for a glossary.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Want to figure out how to do glossaries, right?
Yeah, that would be sweet. Basically, something that defines all the terms that are used in the. Yeah.
Yep. Hey, John, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the community. We haven't seen you before. Do you mind quickly introducing yourself?
Yes, my name is Johan Petrini. I work as a senior data engineer at Klarna, together with Thomas Larsson. Should be attending this meeting as well.
Cool.
We are building a data catalog, and we are basing it on Datahub.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
that's the reason I'm here.
Great. How about Stephen? What brings you here?
Hi, I'm Stephen Price. I'm working in research. We're investigating building data catalogs. I'm just here to learn a lot more about data.
Welcome. Anyone else who's new and wants to introduce themselves? I'm just going off of my screen. Aileen.
Hi, my name is Eileen. I'm a software engineer at a health tech company called Health Verity in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we're prototyping a metadata solution using Datahub. So here to learn more. Thanks.
Well, welcome. And John? John.
Hi. I'm the lead data engineer for a fashion marketplace company called Depop, and here for similar reasons to everybody else. We're looking at starting a data catalog and investigating data. I'm here with my colleague Maria, who's here somewhere as well.
Oh,
yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Maria. Welcome. I see Thomas, also from Klarna, I think.
Yeah, hi. I don't know, maybe Johan has already introduced himself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice to see you all.
Same here.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome. John from Geotab is here. I had heard that he might be a little delayed, but I'm glad to see that he could make it.
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Suresh, hello.
Hi, everyone. Hey, I'm Suresh Sampangiraman. I'm heading a data engineering team for Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Again, my interest today is obviously learn more from you all. Currently, would like to evaluate Datahub as an enterprise data catalog. I think I'm hoping to have another team member here. Got Joe Merzio with me today, and very, very interested. I think there's a lot of stuff going on here. And thank you for forwarding that invite, Sri Shankar. Thank you.
Awesome. We have Naga and Woody from LinkedIn. Hey, you guys, introduce yourselves quickly.
Hello, this is Nagarjuna. Well, I'm working for LinkedIn on the Datahub project. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. I work in the same team as Naga. And theoretically, we are not new member here.
That's right. And Woody always has the best backgrounds. We also have quite a few people, so I'm sorry if I'm not able to call on all of you. This is going to go on for a while. So let's move on to actually sharing the screen. If we have time, we'll get back to all of you later. All right, welcome. This is our second community meeting of the year. We have settled on doing it every third Friday of the month. So that's how we pick the dates. The agenda for today, we're going to do a quick React demo. John and Gabe are going to show what they've got cooking and how it's coming along. We had a React deep dive last time. We also have John from Geotab, who's going to talk to us about how the adoption journey has been with Datahub at Geotab. And Harshal joins us to give us a quick tour of the new ingestion framework that he contributed and to describe some of the design decisions that he made. And then, we'll take some of the Q&A from the spreadsheets and figure out logistics for the next meeting. So that's the plan. A quick thing that I was trying to categorize, and I think we should make it a bit more formal from the next time onwards. I was just looking at kind of the developments that have happened in the last month. We've had close to 50 PRs merged. That's probably a record. I do need to go back and look at kind of the historical trends. In terms of big things that have landed, the GraphQL support that we talked about last month, it's now available. It's embedded in the Play frontend as well as in a separate service. So thanks a lot to John, Joyce, and Arun Vasudevan for kind of working on it together and making it a reality. We also have the React app that has been incubating, and I believe it's at feature parity now with the Ember app. And it has a few additional features like charts and dashboards that we'll be demoing. Another big thing that was merged in was the ML models backend implementation. So thanks to Ryan Holstein for pushing that through, and to the LinkedIn team for actually shepherding and reviewing it very carefully and thoroughly. And then we have the Python ingestion rewrite, and we'll have Harshal talk about it. And finally, we're also seeing Elasticsearch 7 support getting merged in slowly. It's still on a branch, but at least it's there for people to look at. And John Plaisted has been leading the charge on that with Na and Jyoti. We should hopefully see that getting merged into master soon, or main. That's another thing we have to fix. All right, so those were the developments in the last month. And I would like to have John Joyce take us through a quick demo of the React app, and let's see where it's going.
All right, thank you, Shashanka.
I can stop sharing here.
Yes. All right, so I just want to clarify one thing Shashanka mentioned earlier. I'd say we're at probably 99% feature parity. There's a few exceptions, which you'll be able to see in the app. But we've also extended some of the functionality that the Ember app has, or does not have, rather. So we'll start by just logging in. So you're greeted with this kind of home search screen. This is kind of the jump off point for both search as well as the browse experience, which you guys are probably familiar with. We'll just start with searching some of the data. We have kind of a new, fresh search look here. One notable addition is we've added kind of this all tab, which allows you to see different entities grouped by type. So you can see we have dashboards, charts, users, and data sets. From here, you can go right to the details pages. Pretty similar to what the Ember app has. We have the schema, lineage. One of the notable exceptions in terms of functional parity is we don't have a visualization yet. We're kind of waiting to see what the use cases look like around that before adding it, because it is kind of complex. And we have properties, documents, which you can update, change, similar to the Ember app. Let's see. So the biggest, I think, difference that we're looking at is we've added recently dashboards and charts. So now you can actually see them. Pretty minimal. We're looking to add new types of metadata to the model, but right now we just have, say, for a chart, the source data sets, and for a dashboard, we have the related charts. So we have this kind of like parent-child relationship here. The last kind of functional piece that I think we're really missing that's big is this kind of data sets you owned, charts you own, dashboards you own, tabs in the profile, the user profile page. But that's pretty much it. Browse works as you would expect. Kind of just walk through the file system hierarchy. And then we just had a new addition, the logout button, thanks to the folks at Geotab for getting that done. And that's pretty much the demo. It's ready for deployment. I've added a Docker quick start React script that you can use. So it's under the normal Docker folder. It's just quick start React instead of quick start, and you'll be able to serve this on port 9002. You can actually deploy both simultaneously if you want to do a side-by-side feature comparison, if you're considering moving over. But one other thing I want to call out before handing it back is we're going to start doing some React office hours that I'll be leading, just dedicated time for people to jump in to ask any questions about any part of the React app, deployment, features, roadmap, how to actually make changes. Again, this is an ongoing process. I think in the future, we have some interesting action items we're trying to get to. One of those things is doing kind of a comprehensive UI revamp of the different entity details pages you saw there, as well as the browse experience, revisiting that. So yeah, I'll kind of send out a link. It'll probably be Fridays for about a 2-hour block, but excited to continue to work with the community, excited to take more feedback. So feel free to reach out if you have any feedback, concerns, considerations around the React app. And with that, I'll hand it back to Shashanka. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, John. I do know that people wanted to contribute stuff back to the UI, and the Ember application was something that was very hard for us to work with the community on. So I'm really glad we were able to make this push and finally kind of get to the point where I think we can start getting contributions back from the community. So I'm really glad that we got our first logout button. Even small things like that make us very delighted. So would love to see the office hours actually start making a difference. Would love to not have to do all the pages ourselves. We would like to have people start contributing new pages. So that'd be great.
Absolutely.
I know that Gabe had something that he wanted to quickly demo in terms of things that he's working on, almost like a sneak preview of tags. So Gabe, do you have a little bit of time to do that?
Yeah, I'd love to. I can share my screen real quick if that works. Yeah, and thanks again, John, for demoing the React app. I'm really excited about the progress that we've made, and I'm excited about what lies in store for it. And also another plug for the office hours. I'll be hanging out there too. And if anyone has some idea of something that they want to extend or a feature that they'd like to see, you can come and we can hack together and try to get something working, and we'll show you around the code base and try to make it as easy as possible for you to extend the app how you want. So the feature that I wanted to give a sneak peek today is adding a little bit of richness to the existing tagging system. And I'm working with Frederick and Mati from Walt on developing this richer tagging system. They're doing an amazing job driving forward the RFC that's hammering out the nitty-gritty details. And I think that RFC is still a work in progress. So exactly how this would be modeled in the backend is still being developed, but this is an exploration of what this richer tagging system might look like in the UI. So you can see this is a sensitive data set that has some tags applied to it. The sensitive data set has this PII tag applied to it. And then also we're able to tag this field, the contact field, by saying that it's an email. In this richer tagging system, we also might want to associate some additional context to a tag besides just the name email. So if we look at this email tag and click into it, it'll bring us to the tags page. And there we can have this extra metadata. So someone can add a description to a tag explaining what email means, but you can also associate the email tag with other types of tags. So here we've associated the email tag and say that it is some personally identifiable information. And the exciting thing here is that with the ability to associate tags with other tags, we can then start to explore this hierarchy of tags. And so we can click through to the PII tag and then see what tags that is associated with. And then on this PII page, you can see, and again, exactly what properties and what metadata we might want to associate with the tag. This is something that is still, we're still trying to hammer out, but this is kind of an example of another piece of metadata that we could associate with. So those the tag lists could demonstrate what tags are associated with what other internal to Datahub tags. But say you would want to also associate, well, what is the relationship between this tag and some definition external to Datahub? So we can say, here is our PII label inside of Datahub, and this is the external definition of it outside of the Datahub system. And then we can also, from there, continue to explore this hierarchy. So this is just a sneak preview of what this tagging system might look like in the future.
Awesome. That was pretty cool. And I'm sure Madhu is getting excited because he had submitted the business glossary RFC, and I think he'll see a lot of similarities to how we're thinking about tags. And so definitely there's something where we would basically wanted to make it as close to how business tags or business glossaries should look like, while still allowing a little bit of free-form capabilities for people to come up with lightweight tags that don't necessarily have to go through a ton of review. So we'll search for kind of the right balance, and so love to work with the community on figuring what that is. Thanks a lot, Gabe.
Yeah, I like that you quickly could able to demonstrate with the tags. Yeah, we're trying to bring in a little more better business context.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
So hopefully this tagging system that we end up with, and then Frederick and Mati are doing a great job driving that RFC process, is something that could encapsulate the business glossary terms. So just a slightly, becomes somewhat of a more extensible version of exactly that RFC that you drove.
Hey, I'm curious with the tagging system, what's the thought process in terms of how those tags are generated? Is it done via the UI, or would it be like similar to the other message? How are tags generated and associated to one another?
Well, so again, Mati and Frederick they're working on an RFC that is talking about these technical details. But I think that being able to edit tags, or having the capability to edit tags in the UI, is something that we would eventually want to support for sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think we find like two kinds of personas, right? There's the platform team persona that says, I want to control the number of tags and kind of this explosion. And there are some specific tag taxonomies that we want to make sure are known and understood, and are business terms that everyone understands. So, when I was at LinkedIn, we had a compliance taxonomy that, we literally hard-coded for the company. And we said, these are the terms. You don't get to invent your new term for what an email is. So I think the platform teams will want the ability to control certain subtrees of the taxonomy and say, these tag ecosystems are ours and you don't get to play with them.
Yeah.
And then other personas like data scientists and data analysts will want to say, well, but I am team foo and I have my way of talking about stuff. Can I create that taxonomy and either upload it or just manage it using the UI? And I think we will need to support both capabilities.
Yeah, and I think just like big +1 to being able to tie it back to some notion of a business glossary, I think is huge. Like actually tying those data assets back to kind of more ephemeral understandings of concepts would be really, really great.
Awesome. We'll definitely do that.
Thanks, guys.
Sorry if I can.
Okay. And
oh yeah, Mati, do you want to say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry if I can quickly comment here. So I'm from Waltz also, and Frederick has been mostly working on this RFC, but like our use case also requires like maybe there's like two taxonomies of, or two types of adding tags to entities so that some types of tags can be added through the UI, but for some tags we need to be able to control them and audit, for example, these PII tags, for example. So we can't hide them by accident, or we have to have some kind of audit log there. And then, of course, those types of tags, then people shouldn't be able to create a new from scratch from the UI, but then some other types of tags you could. So that's like the basic use case and need for us.
Cool. Yeah, I think the RFC is open, so please add comments there, and we can make it the right fit for pretty much all businesses that are trying this out. Maggie, since we had you, just did the dashboard and charts page at least look like what you would expect as a first cut?
I had to join a few minutes late, so I only caught the tail end of it, which is just such a bummer. But I'll watch the. Okay. I've been looking. Shashanka sent me a Slack this week. Like, they're like, word on the street is that we might have a preview of dashboards, and I missed it.
Well,
but I
there'll
saw
be a
I did
recording.
see the tail end of it, and it looks great. That new UI is slick. Looks good.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so now if Geotab folks are ready, then we can have John actually take over and drive.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So hi everyone, my name is John. I'm the data ops team lead at Geotab. I'm here today to share about our journey, Datahub journey at Geotab. So Geotab is a global leader in telematics with about 2.1 million subscribed vehicles using our products and services. We're one of the very few telematics companies that make both hardware and software. For anyone who's not familiar with the term telematics, it means that we use IoT devices and OEM softwares to collect data from vehicles to provide various products and services to help our customers. Below are some examples on how we help our customers to improve their fleet productivity, optimization, enhance driver safety, and achieve stronger compliance to regulatory changes. So Geotab spent quite a bit of time in 2019 on evaluation and POC with commercial products like Libra, Elation, and Talent, which they all had robust set of features from data management governance perspective, but it didn't really take too long for Geotab to realize that it wasn't for us. Although the outputs from these commercial products were fancy and shiny, actual value add from using the product simply didn't outweigh the direct and indirect cost, like vendor lock-in, customizability, implementations and service costs, and licensing fees. So I joined right after Geotab made the decision not to proceed with Libra, and that's when I started looking at open source solutions from early 2020. I think most community members from the use cases that they shared from previous town halls, most of us had a very similar list of open source products to evaluate from. And from those, we shortlisted to Atlas, Amundsen, and Datahub for our evaluation. Functional and non-functional requirements were very important, but one of the key evaluation metric, I think I wouldn't say unique. I'm sure like someone else also like looked into it, but key evaluation metric that made us to select Datahub was approachability and technical capabilities of leading dev team. LinkedIn, as most of us know, have solid list of open source portfolio that they designed and donated to Apache Foundation, and also Datahub team. They have been very approachable, responsive, and open during our evaluation phase. So from a very small team at Geotab trying to tackle a big problem, those technical guidance and support were very important to us. So our first crack at Datahub. We onboarded small number of data sets, just over 250, and had 60 users from one department to try out Datahub. The result was somewhat disappointing. The adoption rate was very poor, and feedback was discouraging. From users' eyes, Datahub wasn't any better than how they searched data sets in Google BigQuery. For some, it was useful, but there weren't enough occasions when they needed to find something on Datahub. So I asked myself, like, I was told that data discovery was a problem at Geotab, but it turns out the scope was POC was poorly established, and I made a very naive decision to blindly accept the comment that someone else said and took the scope from Calibra POC, which was also unsuccessful POC. So for past few months, I did digging on my own to learn what's really going on behind the scenes. So just to give you guys some overview of what data journey was like from 50,000 feet view. Geotab grew very fast, 500% growth rate in revenue and size in 5 years fast. Within that time, Geotab acquired 5 different companies, which contributed to not only growth in revenue and size, but also the complexity of data architecture and data management and governance structure. So until today, Geotab, like general data practice at Geotab is done in silos. Most people work with the data that they have within their team and department to drive the insights without requiring much insight into the other data available within other parts of the organization. Teams aren't so big, and they work with relatively small sets of data and have strong tribal knowledge of what data to use or who to reach out to ask questions within their domain. And this was the one of the key reasons why users from first POC didn't have the need to search for what they need to do, what they need on Datahub. And many teams don't have data management or governance structure, and ones that do, they are using different tools, processes to integrate, store, and drive data. One of the pain points I had was less than 5% of data at Geotab had concept of ownership, which made it very difficult to do further analysis on what steps we would need to take to onboard meaningful and searchable data sets on Datahub. So the past few months, I spent most of my time talking to people from other departments to understand where we are in terms of data management. Then made a proposal on what we would need to do to change, what we would need to change from architectural perspective, integration, security, compliance, operations, and metadata management perspective. It took a couple of us a few months to get all the buy-ins from across all departments. And now we have a new team called DataOps, which focuses on improving interoperability among data tools, processes, and people using metadata. So in 2021, one of our goals is to productionize Datahub. We're currently working closely with Shashanka's team, John and Gabe, to learn more about their React app and assisting them bit by bit in building React application. And once we're comfortable with the app in the testing environment, we're planning on productionizing Datahub at Geotab. And internally, we had a debate on whether to allow anyone to push any data sets within Geotab, but the decision was to make only the production data sets available on Datahub. There isn't a right answer for choosing one over the other, but we decided to put more emphasis on production level data set, which follows our internal data ops processes to ensure relevant metadata is captured on data integrity, ownership, security, and compliance. Basically, what we're saying is that we want our users to only be able to find and use the data we know is in good quality within the risk tolerance level that we defined. Also, we think Datahub can be more than just a data catalog at Geotab. Datahub's generalized metadata model allowed us to start conversation with other departments at Geotab to model custom entities that they want to catalog while capturing meaningful relationships with other Datahub entities. So basically, we are discussing and will be treating Datahub as internal open source project, so other department dev teams also can contribute to internal features and custom entities. Some entities and aspects that we're thinking of modeling this year are systems and applications, APIs, RBAC, projects, and service accounts. We're still very new in open source journey, but our plan is to make meaningful contributions to the community as much as possible. We just started to contribute to the open source React application. We made a couple of contributions past couple of weeks, but hopefully the numbers will grow over time. We're not adding too much value at this point in time, but we're slowly shifting towards an open source first mindset to generalize our use case as much as possible to find the opportunities to contribute back to the community while solving our internal problems at the same time. So these are some of the wish list before I close. I think I mentioned in this Slack channel that hopefully we can have the roadmap timelines updated on the open source Git repo. And one of the pain points when we were having discussions like internally with other departments was that there wasn't a really easy way for us to understand quickly what entities, aspects, and properties are currently available in Datahub, so we can minimize the redundant effort when we create new custom entities. So hopefully the metadata model to graph with graph visualization to kind of help the community members to quickly see what entities and aspects and properties are available and what the relationship between them among them is would be very helpful in my opinion. And column level lineage is something that we've been tackling internally to ask ourselves what would be the most efficient and automated way to first capture the column level relationship. So when the feature is available on Datahub, we can readily surface it. And social feature has been like one of the hot discussion internally, but I know most of the commercial products have this feature, but it's not the most high priority item on our backlog. But I think it would be very valuable for Datahub community as well. And that's about it. Does anyone have any questions? Cool.
That was great, John. Thanks for sharing the journey. I think this, I can relate to definitely a lot of those challenges and concerns. The one thing that we've had quite a lot of debates about with a lot of teams, especially central teams, is exactly this rationalizing of, do we only put the clean data in Datahub, meaning the clean metadata in Datahub, or do we actually put everything in there and then have the clean data rise to the top and use that as a way to drive data governance? So that's something that's definitely on my mind. It's a big topic of debate in lots of communities as well.
If I can just quickly jump in, my team built Airbnb data portal at Airbnb, and we went through a similar decision-making process. And there's something magical that happens when you have, more than 200 weekly active users of your product. You'll find the right blend of trusted data sets and data sets that people want to be productive with. So I believe it's just about growing usage. And the the quality of data sets questions will settle itself once you get the experts using the tool.
Yeah, we encountered the same challenge here at Amazon with our clients, and what we found that works better is to have the responsibility for the publisher of the data sets, that they need to tell if the data is reliable, etc. Because it's also relate, like we see a lot of customers and even our internal team like building a feature store, right? So is this data set is something that you can rely for your reporting or BI. So we push it to the publishers and the subscriber, and we just create like a JSON that define the contract between the publisher and the subscriber about the data set. So we try to, you use technology to enforce it, but what I've seen that you always need the man in the middle, like the data steward or someone from legal to tell, okay, can you actually publish this data, etc. Because the challenge is that you don't know what is the intention of the consumer of the data, what they want to do with it. So this is why, thus I agree with you, like you're debating. So we said, let's bring the publisher, they are the owner of the data, so they have the responsibility. Happy to share, like maybe in the next meetup, like some architecture or somehow we solve it in several use cases. And we, again, like you mentioned Colibra at Lyons, like we saw, we are looking on all these third parties and customers, and we always get into this, like there is the man in the middle or processes that needs to be enforced somehow. So I agree with you in the comment.
Absolutely. We'll take you up on that offer, Roy.
Yeah, great.
Okay. All right. If there are no more questions, we'll go over to the next item on the agenda, which is having our newest contributor, Harshal, give us a tour of the new ingestion framework that he contributed.
Mm-hmm.
Harshal, are you here?
Yep. Let me share my screen. It's the first time I'm using Zoom, so I'm gonna need to enable this one again. Give me one moment.
Sure. Roy, can you describe a little bit what you do at Amazon?
Yeah, sure. I'm Roy Benalta. I'm based in New York. I've been with Amazon like 7+ years. So had several roles with Amazon, like product, SA. Today I'm a director at AWS. So what we do, we work with all the AWS customers and partners, helping them with their journey with data and machine learning on the cloud. Another thing that my team does, because we cannot meet the demand of all the customer that needs help, so we are doing a lot of open source as well. One of our most popular open source that reached 2 million downloads, like in self-PR, is Data Wrangler. It's a pandas library that we build in Python to for folks that don't like to use Spark and they love pandas, especially the data scientist community. So, and we're using a lot of open source in our tools. Of course, AWS has the service team that are building products, etc. We always try to use what the native AWS analytics, because if there is a service that solve the problem, but if not, we are looking at third party or open source. But one other things that people do not know, that we are also, some of our customers are Amazon themselves. So Amazon has different business units from Alexa, Amazon Go, and we actually help them as well because they are using AWS. And I joined Amazon in 2013 when Amazon Web Services has 15 services, and today it's like almost 200. So it's the platform evolved over the years. So, and I've been in the data analytics probably most of my career. My background is distributed computing. So big fan of what LinkedIn did with Kafka and others. So, Jay and Nia from past life were before Confluent. So always happy to join back to the meetups and teams. So now in my role, I think there is a tight correlation of things that we can do together in the open source. So happy to help. And again, I'm not selling any AWS services in here. So just from sharing knowledge and learn from you as well. So nice to meet you.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. All right, we have Harshal who's come back. So take it away, Harshal.
Awesome. Yep. So past couple of weeks, I've been working on a new Python ingestion framework for Datahub. First off is kind of why did we do this? So, the status quo was that people were using the Python ingestion framework that we had previously was really just a set of scripts. And they were already using that to ingest metadata into Datahub. But, there were a couple shortcomings there. Specifically, it was hard to ingest via both Kafka and the REST API. If you wanted to get instantaneous feedback, you'd want the REST API, but using that with those scripts wasn't possible. And another thing was that we had these opaque JSON blobs that you would ingest into Datahub, and it was based on Avro, which is a serialization format similar to like protobuf. The issue is that it's pretty difficult to use. And there were a lot of sharp edges. People run into issues, not know what the schema was for how to format their data. And so we get a lot of questions around what is even possible with that. And specifically, not having type annotations around that was something that a lot of people struggled with. And they'd run into a bunch of runtime errors when they try to execute their code, but they wouldn't actually have any prior warning. And then the other thing was that in order to configure your metadata ingestion, you need to go and modify a bunch of code, which was not the ideal situation. Ideally, you just modify some configuration, and then the code remains the same. What we found is that people wanted to stick with Python because of the ecosystem around it, all of the open source projects, things like Airflow and NumPy and TensorFlow and so forth. And so they were used to this. They wanted to continue to use it to ingest data into Datahub. And we wanted a principled way to make that happen. So how did we approach this? The first thing was that to solve the problem around the schema for Avro and ingesting data, we took the schema from Datahub and we did code generation to generate a bunch of Python classes that are fully typed and, because it's code gen, always in sync with the Datahub schema. And this way, you always know exactly what is possible, what you can ingest and what you can't. The next thing, we wanted to be able to support writing to Kafka or writing to Datahub via either Kafka or the REST API. And as I said, it's a trade-off between throughput versus immediate feedback. With Kafka, you write and then you forget. And you don't necessarily know that it was processed correctly until you receive the audit event or the failed metadata event back. Whereas with the REST API, it's a little bit more instantaneous. And so for different use cases, we wanted to use different things, and we wanted to enable that. We were inspired by Apache Goblin for the architecture of this, and I'll go into a little bit more detail as to what that means. And the final thing that we made sure to do when architecting this was have file-based configuration. So you write configuration in a YAML or a TOML file, and then you can just run the Datahub ingestion framework against that config. This enables easier testing and debuggability, but it also enables you to just have more flexibility when you're running the ingest framework. So how did we architect this? As I mentioned, it was inspired by Apache Goblin. Right now we have two main abstractions. One is the source and the other is the sink. So it sinks. These are the methods that you can take a event of some sort and write it into Datahub. And that can happen over Kafka, over REST, or for debugging purposes, you can just dump it to the console or write it to a file. The event that all of these operate on is the metadata change event. So this is a central concept in Datahub. Every single event or every single change in metadata is modeled as a metadata change event, and you can update, basically do all of the operations that you want to do by emitting a number of MCEs or metadata change events. And then finally, we have the sources, and these are wide and varied, everything from databases to a file to even like ingesting the metadata of Kafka itself. And as long as the source can create a metadata change event, we were hoping that, we can just plug it into the rest of this framework and get all the benefits accordingly. So I will talk a little bit more about what it actually takes to add a source as well. So, as with all live demos, I'm gonna take a stab at it. But things go wrong in live demos, so bear with me. Hopefully you can all still see my screen here. So all of this is in the metadata ingestion directory. The easiest way to install it, we can build the schemas from the rest of Datahub. And then we have a relatively simple set of commands. You can just copy and paste this into your terminal and get set up immediately. So the first thing that you might want to do is ingest some sample data. And so the way to do that is Datahub ingest, and then we included a number of examples. So example to Datahub rest. So let's take a look at what this does before I run it. So this reads from a certain file, which is just a sample file that contains a JSON of all of the MCEs that we've previously constructed. And it sends them to Datahub GMS over the REST API. So if we run this, we'll see, oops, that's not supposed to happen. As with all demos, bear with me one sec. I will worry about debugging that after. Theoretically, it will work. So we will fix that later. But what you'll see is, you'll go to Datahub, go under data sets, and we'll see some stuff here. We'll fix the ingest. The other thing that I did, used to be a student at Yale, and I ran a course selection tool there with a MySQL database. And so I actually ingested this real world database into Datahub. This is the configuration. There's a username and password above that I scrolled down. So, we have the host port, and then we have a filter rule so that you can filter out certain like MySQL tables and then allow the rest. Initially, I just printed it out to the console, but we can actually write these to Datahub over Kafka this time, let's say. And so, oops, I've got to change the recipe to run. And so we can run it. It will configure all of the ingestion, and then it will go through and ingest a number of tables. And then you get a nice summary of what happened. So it filtered out all of the MySQL internal tables. Here are all of the tables that it actually fetched. And so if we go into Datahub, we can take a look at, let's say, the students table, and we get the full schema. We get, a bunch of other information related to the tables that we just ingested. Yeah, so that's the usage side of things. Let's talk a little bit about what it takes to add a source. So the simplest source that we have, let's start with the source is .py. Here we go. So the abstraction that we have for a source, you need to be able to create it, get work units, and get a report. These are the three operations that a source needs to support. And if it supports those three, then we can integrate it into the rest of this framework. So as an example, here's a very simple source that just reads from a file. As I mentioned, we have like a bootstrap MCE file that just has, a number of pieces of sample data. So it reads that and then, constructs a metadata change event out of it using the CodeGen classes, and then sends them into the rest of the framework. And that's how simple it is to add a source. A slightly more complex one, let's take a look at the source for Kafka. So this ingests metadata about the topics and partitions and so forth in Kafka and sends them into Datahub. And so here it's a little bit more complex. You construct your consumer, and then similar thing, you list your topics, iterate through them, and then yield metadata change events accordingly. And as long as you can do that, you can construct a metadata change event, using things like aspects and snapshots and all of these things that we're relatively familiar with. As long as you can do that, then the source plugs into the rest of the framework accordingly. All right. So last thing I wanted to touch upon is where are we headed with this?
Can I ask a question, Harshal? Yep. Can you walk us through the code gen that you're doing from the Avro schemas? I thought that was one of the hard things about this project.
Yep, sure. So let's take a look here. So the AVSC file, which is the Avro schema file, looks like a big JSON blob, and it has all of the fields and everything accordingly. We have a code gen system that I took from an open source project and modified, and I'm also working to contribute that back. But the code gen system, basically, let's say this is the ML properties class. So for this, let's do like data set snapshot. Let's find this one. Here we go. So data set snapshot has a number of aspects. Each aspect can be either one of these things, so properties, deprecation, lineage, upstream lineage, memory, ownership, status, so forth. When you construct it, you can automatically, add the type systems, and it all associates correctly. And this way, if you run MyPy on this code, it actually completely checks every single assignment, every single constructor, all of that, so that for sure that the code is at least semantically correct in terms of types. So that's kind of a little bit on the code gen, and obviously it generates a truly massive file of 5,000 lines. So glad we aren't writing this by hand and updating it. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about where we're headed with ingestion. So we're going to do a more formal RFC process on this relatively soon, and then hopefully also publish a packaged PyPy so that you can pip install, Datahub or something along those lines, and then start executing this, and you don't need to do the code gen yourself and all of those other steps. The other things are more functional improvements. So for example, detecting when metadata is stale. So if you've deleted a table in your source in, let's say, MySQL, we want to be able to detect that it disappeared and perform the associated deletion in Datahub. Right now, it's a purely additive process, and we can do updates, but the deletes are not something that we yet support. Another thing is validating that it was actually ingested correctly. So, if you run with Kafka and you ingest via that, you just send, let's say 30 events to a Kafka topic or to the broker. You don't necessarily know that those all got accepted correctly. And so doing that validation step would also be very helpful. And then on the Java ingestion side, so we have Python and we also have Java. We're hopefully going to continue doing a little bit of improvement on the Java ingestion side as driven by community needs. So If people really love the Python, we'll invest more on that. If people still want to be able to use the Java, we'll do that accordingly as well. And then the last thing is standardizing a testing harness between the two so that we can test functional parity between the Java and the Python. Any questions on all of this?
I have one, Harshal. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about how someone would productionalize this, say, in Airflow or something.
Yeah, sure. So we include a couple sample DAGs actually in our repo, so that you can use this directly within Airflow. It's actually quite simple. Let's say for MySQL, you just create a pipeline, give it a configuration, and just call run. And as long as you can do this within a Python operator of Airflow, you can run this and you'll get all the standard error reporting out of Airflow as you would expect. So it is production ready already, and you can use it however you like. I think it does make sense to run it within an orchestration framework like Airflow or even cron if you want something simple, so that you can continually get updated metadata from a given source instead of just a one-time import.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, this is cool because I know that Datahub has this positioning almost as push-based, right? And so a lot of people think that, oh, it's push-based, so I cannot pull metadata into this system. But I think this kind of shows the people like how easy it is to, once you have a push-based system, you can always add on a pull-based system upstream of it to essentially pull metadata into your system. And you don't have to really choose between the two. Yeah, you can do both if you want. All right, so I had just very small logistical things to go over very quickly. We can take some questions. Thanks, Harshal.
Mm-hmm.
Are you hosting office hours as well for ingestion?
I can if that's something people would be interested in.
All right. We won't sign you up yet. Okay. Okay, so a quick thing on next meeting. We got a lot of folks from EU who have struggled to join because it's a bit late for them. So for the next one, we are going to move up the slot and make it 7 a.m. It still allows folks on the West Coast to join as long as they set their alarms correctly. And folks in the Central Time Zone and Eastern will be doing just fine. And for EU, I think it also works. So our next meeting is going to be 3rd Friday of March. So that's turns out to be 19th again, thanks to February being exactly 4 weeks, right? So 19th March, we're going to be back 7 a.m. That's the next meeting. That's all I had on logistics. There were a couple of questions on the town hall meeting that I wanted to quickly go over. Maggie, I hopefully got her answer on dashboard elements.
Yeah, can I just one clarifying thing there. So we are not, well, is the idea that we should migrate over to the React app for dashboard elements?
Yes, thanks for asking. Essentially, it's very hard to continue supporting the community on the Ember app. It's always been hard. So the React app is where we will be doing new development and supporting the open source community. So that's where you should plan to move towards.
Okay.
And that was the reason we were getting to feature parity with the Ember app as well.
Got it. That sounds great. And just wanted to signal that Spot Hero data eng team is still planning on contributing back our liquor scraper to the community. So that's something we've had to punt it a little bit for some other work, but we should have that out maybe end of this quarter, more likely Q2.
That would be great. And hopefully the new ingestion framework helps you with rewrite, like writing the least amount of code for it.
Yeah.
And finally, you can turn off that hack to make Looker dashboards pretend to be data sets. So
yeah, it's a good hack, but I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all.
Awesome. There was another question from Johan about translating relational DB metadata to the Datahub metadata model. Did the ingestion example help you?
Yes, it helped me a bit, but I'm still a Datahub newbie. So, but I saw in your presentation before that you actually had this sort of a schema, like for a data set that was a table. It looked like the relation table. You had this column descriptions and all that. So that would answer my question.
Yeah, I think for those classic metadata that is just on the columns, the standard ingestion script does pull it in. If you do something custom, where you have like very custom table properties or column properties that you're squirreling away rich metadata in, then talk to us about how to convert that and extract that metadata and make it more structured. We have some ideas around that. Harshal did not talk about the extractor concept inside the source to sync. The extractor is basically a pluggable thing that allows you to extract more metadata than the default metadata that is getting extracted by the out of the box source. So those are ways in which you can customize the extraction of metadata on top of the default pipeline.
Cool, thanks, will do.
Awesome. We are at time, so I will let you all go. Thanks to the EU folks for staying up late for this. And we'll see you in 4 weeks.
Thank you.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
You. Bye.